Welcome back to my channel. As we all know, the fitness industry is just full of dogma. So many people out there on Instagram saying, this is the way. So I wanted to take a second to make a little video about essentially why you shouldn't do what I do when it comes to health and fitness, and why you shouldn't do what anyone else does when it comes to health and fitness. Because in all of the years of research and thousands of hours I've put into researching like different diets and protocols and everything like that, I have come to one big overarching conclusion. And that is that there is no one way. There is no one size fits all approach. What works really well for one person, gets them amazing results, might actually be horrible for another person and be detrimental to their health. And that's why I highly recommend taking a bio-individual approach to your health and fitness journey. So in this video, I'm gonna break down kind of what that means, why it's important, and how to do that. So bioindividuality is the idea that there's no one size fits all approach. We are all unique and different in our biological makeup and requirements. Each person kind of has their own thumbprint for what's gonna work best for them when it comes to their nutrition, their health practices, their various routines in their lifestyle. For example, the foods that best sustain me and my optimal exercise practices, my optimal sleep schedule and routine, the things that work best for me to help me cope with stress, those are my unique individual code that's gonna work for my body, and it might not be what's best for you. In fact, it might be the opposite of what's best for you.
I mean, probably not the complete opposite, but you know.
It might be very different. And then I think it also encourages kind of a much bigger sense of self-empowerment in your own health journey, because you're not just blindly following what someone else is telling to do. It's putting you in the driver's seat of determining what is best for you and your body, rather than just passively accepting what other people are telling you to do. So I want to give you a couple examples of how different things can affect our bodies differently and the implications for bioindividuality, so that you kind of have context for understanding what I'm talking about. So one really interesting example, in my opinion, is that gender, age, and genetics can all impact our body's ability to convert plant-derived omega-3 ALA into DHA, which is an omega-3 that is critical for brain health and function, among many other things. Our bodies need DHA in order to be healthy and to function, but dietary DHA is only found in animal products. So what this means is that those people with the right genetics and gender and age could potentially thrive a lot more readily on a plant-based diet. So you could take a high converter of ALA and a low converter of ALA, put them on the exact same plant-based diet, and one person could thrive and the other person could suffer. This is bioindividuality. Another example, also about plants, that our gut health and our microbiome can impact how our bodies can process different phytochemicals, which are just different compounds in plants. But there's a lot of compounds in plants that have gotten a bad rap lately, like lectins and oxalates, because all of these can have negative impacts on some people. For example, oxalates in particular can bind to nutrients that you consume in your diet and thus decrease the absorption of the nutrients in your diet. So if you're having a lot of oxalates, you're probably not gonna absorb as many vitamins and minerals, and so you may just become deficient in vitamins and minerals because of the oxalates. But here's the thing, there is a specific bacteria in your gut that can actually break down a lot of oxalate before it binds to these various nutrients. And so it greatly reduces the amount of oxalate that your body absorbs, which reduces the negative impact of oxalates. But different people have varying levels of this bacteria in their gut, and so different people are going to be able to eat more oxalates with fewer consequences, and other people are going to have more severe consequences from having more oxalates in their diet. I'm actually making a video right now all about how to promote microbiome diversity, which in theory should help with increasing this amount of bacteria in your gut. But basically, this is one example of how the microbiome of your gut can impact whether or not certain foods might be good for you or more harmful for you. So all this is to say, essentially, our bodies are different, therefore different factors are going to impact our different bodies differently. That's the whole thing about bioindividuality. So really quick, I want to talk about the different kind of factors that are different among different people that affect how we process things differently. And the first huge thing is obviously genetics. Studies show that your genetic background has a lot to do with your optimal diet and lifestyle prescription. This is why, for example, we see a lot of people that are not lactose intolerant and can tolerate dairy really well have ancestry from Northern Europe. That's because that's where they started consuming dairy a lot earlier. The second big factor that a lot of people overlook when it comes to bioindividuality is your environment. And this includes everything from the climate to oxygen density to environmental stressors like pollution or various social pressures that are in your environment. As a very basic example, people who live in colder climates tend to have a higher metabolic rate and need to consume more calories and more fat to insulate their body. And then studies also show that people we interact with in our environment, so family, friends, roommates, animals, can affect our gut health. So essentially, with environment impacting our bioindividual responses to things, you could take a genetic clone of yourself like right now and just ship them off halfway across the world and put them in an entirely different environment, and now you are going to be two very different individuals, and you may not thrive on the same diet and lifestyle as your literal genetic clone just because of the difference in all of these different environmental factors. The next thing that can impact how your body responds to things is your diet. This is, I feel like I don't need to go into too much detail in this one, but your diet impacts your gut health, and then from there, your gut health impacts everything else. And your nutrient intake can impact all of the other systems in your body and affect how they would respond to other things like exercise or like different environmental factors. Next, we have stress. Varying levels of stress will affect how your body responds to everything else, like exercise and like diet. You know, if you take a genetic clone of yourself and stress them the heck out, and then you chill the heck out, you might respond differently to different foods. Then you have your exercise and your movement habits. These impact your metabolic health, which is also going to impact everything else. And then beyond that, any lifestyle factors, really, like any variation in anything that's going on in your life is going to affect how everything else affects your body. So it's because all of these various factors are at play with how our bodies respond to things that it's so important to take the bioindividual approach. Because if you just go ahead and say, okay, yes, I think the paleo diet is the best diet for everyone out there, and you just follow that and stick to that, even maybe if it works really well for you, you could still be missing out on like that extra 10-20% of like vibrancy and radiance that you might feel if you added a couple things in or took a couple things out from that diet and made it more tailored to your body and your circumstances. Look at this cat, by the way. Isn't she the cutest thing on the planet? Like, look at this little face.
Oh, so cute.
So it is my opinion that if you want what is best for your body, you should do the work to figure out what works best for your body. So I have a 4-step process for you, and it's essentially what I have done on my years of searching for my bioindividual optimal diet and lifestyle. And step number 1 is testing. The best way to get definitive and quick answers as to what is going to work for your body is to just run some tests. If you have any health issues whatsoever, this is going to help you understand what's actually going on in your body so that you can implement protocols, diets, etc. to help with that. Genetic tests and even to some extent kind of ancestry tests can help you determine what's actually going on in your genes and how various diet and lifestyle choices may impact your body because of that. Gut health tests can give you a really good idea of what's going on in your gut and kind of map out what your microbiome is looking like, which gives you so much insight into what kinds of foods are going to be best for your body at any given moment. Testing just gives you a really solid baseline of information from which to work so that you're not just kind of like guessing and throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. It can really help you pinpoint what direction you want to go in to start with, and then from there kind of get more into the nitty-gritty and start making adjustments. If you're looking for a good test to start with, I highly recommend Viome. They are sponsoring this video, so big shout out to them, but I absolutely love them. I've done their full body intelligence test a couple times now, and it has been so insightful. Like, especially now that I'm back on my skin healing journey and working on kind of healing my body from the inside out, figuring out what's going on inside my body is the key to starting that. And so I just did their full body intelligence test a couple weeks ago and just got my results in. And I'm gonna be using that information to help me figure out what's gonna work best for my body to help me heal my skin. And Viome essentially does at-home tests that can analyze your gut microbiome with mRNA technology. For their gut health test, they just do a stool sample, which is super fun. And then for the full body intelligence test, you do a stool sample, a blood test, and a saliva sample, all just done at home. Super simple, super easy. Just do all the things, get it done. You ship it off to them for free. And then with their full body intelligence test, you get over 50 different health scores that break down the health of your body into a bunch of different categories, so you know where you might need some work and where you're doing good. So like for mine, for example, let's pull it up. So I just got my results like a couple days ago. So it tells you all of these things. You have the big overall health scores. So my gut health is average, cellular energy efficiency, not optimal, which was the case last time as well. So this is something that I am looking into. Immune health, inflammation response, oral health, heart and metabolic health, brain and cognitive health, also your biological age, which is super fun. I have de-aged apparently. I am 26 now, I'm actually 28. And then it gives you all of these functional scores. So looking into all of these various things like gas production, oral active microbial diversity, immune system activation. Mine is not optimal. And then it has a whole breakdown of different pathway activities. So cavity promoting pathways, cavity promoting microbes. My oral mucin degradation pathways are not optimal. Looks like a lot of my non-optimal results for this are bad gum health.
Which, to be fair, I know that I have receding gums, so
that is also something I'm looking into. Yeah, and my energy production pathways are just not looking good. Just a side note, I have a theory that my energy production and my skin health are probably, you know, related. So when I figure out one, I'll probably figure out the other, but hopefully that happens soon. But like, for example, for me, for my skin health journey and the journey that I'm on right now, like knowing that that is the biggest area that my body is struggling is with my cellular and energy efficiency, like that's huge, as opposed to my gut health. Like my gut health, not bad. Like if my gut health score was really low and my cellular efficiency score was normal, then my approach would be very different than what it currently is. So like having this information is super helpful in helping you craft your own path based on your body. And then now making this less about me and back to the actual topic of the video, one of the other really cool things that Viome does is it analyzes your gut health and it lets you know what foods are going to be helpful based on your current gut health and what foods are going to be more detrimental based on your gut health. And so it gives you this whole list of foods that's either like a superfood for your gut, like something that's going to be really helpful that you should really actively incorporate, foods to enjoy, so like foods that are beneficial but not quite superfoods, foods to minimize because maybe they're a little bit less helpful, and then foods to avoid because they are like severely negatively impacting your gut health potentially. So interestingly, I should avoid passion fruit, peanuts, pork, shrimp, rye, wheat, which rye and wheat makes sense, I have celiac disease, tomato, watermelon, like foods that you would never really think, oh yeah, you should definitely avoid that other than rye and wheat because I have celiac disease, but like sometimes it's very healthy foods that are just not going to be optimal for your gut microbiome. So like superfoods that I should include are Brussels sprouts, celery, cacao,
yay,
coffee, interesting, garlic, ginger, grapefruit, mackerel, just a whole list of superfoods. Shiitake mushrooms. I actually put shiitake mushrooms in my dinner the other night, so I'm working on this. And then the other super amazing thing when it comes to bioindividual customization for your body when it comes to Viome is if you get the precision supplement, they will custom make supplements and probiotics for you based on your individual test results so that you can optimize your health based on where your body currently is. It's not just a generic supplement. So whether or not you're trying to fix an actual health issue like me, or if you just want to get started on your health and fitness journey and approach it in a bio-individual way, I cannot recommend testing, particularly through Viome, enough. Like, information is just, it's so powerful, and it just makes the whole process so much easier because they're not just like guessing and checking. So if you want to start out your bio-individual health and fitness journey on the right foot, you can go to tryviome.com/fitandnerdy110 and use the code fitandnerdy110 to get yourself $110 off of your test. I'll leave a link down in the description box below. Check it out. So step number 2 on your bio-individual health and fitness journey after testing is to learn how to get in tune with your body. Bio-individualizing your diet and your lifestyle goes hand in hand with intuitive eating, intuitive training, intuitive living, because the goal with finding your bio-individual diet and lifestyle is to feel your best. And it's really difficult to understand if you're feeling your best if you're not actively in tune with your body. When you can hear and understand the signals that your body is giving you, you can make adjustments accordingly. But if you're super out of touch with your body's cues, you're not really gonna have that feedback mechanism that you need in order to determine if something is working for you. You're just gonna be basing it off of like bigger symptoms, which may not give you the little bits of feedback you need to make the more minor adjustments. So I do have an entire video about how to learn how to eat intuitively, which really kind of goes into a lot of different strategies you can implement to also like training intuitively and figuring out what other lifestyle things are working for your body. So I'll leave a link to that down in the description box below. But some of the biggest things that you can do are keep a journal, and like a health and fitness journal specifically, where you talk about your diet, your exercise, your sleep, your stress, any other lifestyle things that you are incorporating or experimenting with. You write all those down and you write down how you're feeling that day. So keeping a journal is really helpful in, first of all, reminding yourself to check in with yourself regularly and actually sit down and think about how you're feeling in response to these different factors. But then it's also super helpful to have all that data to reflect on in looking for patterns. So you're like, I've been feeling super bloated the last like week, then you can go back in your journal and be like, okay, did something change? Like maybe you realize, oh, my stress was a 7 out of 10 on the scale this last week when normally it's a 3 out of 10. So you can kind of learn that increased stress increases your bloating. And so maybe implementing some stress management practices when you're more stressed is going to help your body. Step number 3 is less of a step, more of a mindset shift. And that is just keep an open mind. Dogma is dumb, and it is the downfall of so many people who are either in the fitness industry promoting different things, or people who are following various people in the fitness industry that are promoting very dogmatic viewpoints about things. Like if anyone ever tells you,
all vegetables are bad,
all animal products are bad, always, for everyone,
don't listen to them. Absolute statements are almost always wrong. So when it comes to keeping an open mind, you may have certain ways of thinking about diet and lifestyle ingrained in your head because of how you grew up, because of various things you've heard on social media. So making sure to keep an open mind about that is really important. And then just also like not getting attached to one modality. It can be so easy, and I see this all the time with like fitness influencers and like bigger names in the health and fitness space, where you try one diet and it fixes this health issue that you've been having, or it fixes something and you think it's like this miracle because nothing else was working, and then this one thing like changed your life. And a lot of people fall into this belief that like, because this is the one thing that worked, this is how it has to be for always and forever and for everyone. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Like, first of all, that's kind of the whole principle behind seasonal dieting that I have talked about in my seasonal dieting videos, that oftentimes the magic is in the switch, not in the diet itself. Like, changing from one diet to a radically different diet is a hormetic stress on the body, and the adaptation your body has to go through in adjusting to a new diet can give you a lot of benefits in itself, not necessarily just from the diet. And so there's that factor. But also, if your environment changes over time, if your age changes over time, which it does, if your stress levels change over time, like if any of the various things that impact your bio-individual diet change over time, that's going to affect how these different diets affect you. And so while one thing may have healed your whole life and your whole body 5 years ago, that doesn't mean that that's what's going to be optimal for you in 20 years. Like if you move, if your environment changes, if you get pregnant, if you develop an illness and then recover from said illness, like all of these things can affect how different diets affect you. And so getting stuck in this one mentality can be really detrimental to optimizing your health. So once you have made these key mindset shifts, the next step is to experiment. And ideally experimenting within the parameters and suggestions based on your test results from step 1. And you can experiment with all different kinds of things and then use the self-awareness that you developed in step 2 to help you evaluate whether or not something is working for you. So when it comes to diet, one of the biggest things that I usually recommend a lot of people do is an elimination diet. And whether this be an elimination diet based on recommendations from Viome, or, you know, just going Whole30 for 30 days, or doing like a paleo elimination diet, or even going plant-based and then reintroducing foods and seeing how those foods affect your body. That is one of the most powerful ways to find out what your body does and doesn't tolerate well. You can also experiment with different macro compositions. I have an entire video on this, I think with a downloadable calculator. It may be gone now, but trying out different macro ratios to see what works best for your body. Trying high fat, low carb, trying high carb, low fat. You can also experiment with an ancestral based diet. So just take a look at where your ancestors came from, what their like native diet would have been similar to, and try eating in that style and see how that feels for your body. You can also experiment with meal timing, you know, intermittent fasting versus eating earlier in the day, eating later in the day, expanding, shrinking your fasting window. And this also extends to like the number of times you're eating a day. So 2 big meals a day, 6 small meals a day. There's just so much nuance and variation that you're really only gonna pick up on when you start experimenting for yourself. Like there was a study done in 2015 that looked at a lot of different people's blood sugar responses to specific meals. And they did find some correlation between BMI and glucose response, but what they also found is that different people had very different responses to different types of foods and different types of meals, and those people had like the same individual response day to day, but a similar person might have a very different glucose response. And so that's something that you could determine with experimentation, just based on how you're feeling. Not that you're gonna like know that your glucose is spiking, but in theory, you're gonna feel better over time if your glucose is more stable than if it is fluctuating wildly, or you can actually get like a continuous glucose monitor. And then aside from diet, you can also look at individualizing your exercise and movement routine. Our bodies are naturally built differently. So some of us are gonna excel at some things and be really bad at others. And so depending on your goals, maybe you want to work more on things that you aren't as good at, because that is gonna make you more well-rounded in your movement and in your physicality, which overall is going to improve your health. But you can also experiment with different variety and intensity and frequency of your workouts and just see what feels best for you, what gives you energy, what gives you better sleep, what you feel like you can recover from. And again, this is gonna change a lot based on what's going on in your life. Like your environment, your stress levels can have a big impact on how exercise affects your body. So even if you lock something in and be like, this is working great, like 6 months from now, that might change. But if you're back in phase 2 and you understand your body and can learn the signals, then you can learn how to adapt your exercise based on the other signals that your body is giving you. So step 2, very crucial, don't skip it. Get in tune with your body. When it comes to stress, playing around with different coping mechanisms for stress may also be really helpful. Obviously, I don't recommend the detrimental coping mechanisms, but things like meditation, journaling, exercise. And then this ties back to the exercise thing, is like, if you are chronically high stress, exercise might not actually be the best outlet for that stress, because it's just adding more stress to your body. You might actually just be addicted to the cortisol, so to the stress that you have in your daily life and the extra cortisol that you get from exercising. And overall, like week after week, that's gonna have more of a detrimental impact. Whereas you actually do less exercise and focus more on meditation, more on journaling, more on whatever it is that's helping you actually reduce that stress, then after a couple weeks, you might realize that you feel a lot better than trying to use exercise as your coping mechanism for stress. And then with sleep, you can experiment with sleep schedule, sleep duration. So for example, an experiment that I did for myself was I made sure I went to bed at the same time every single night for quite a while. I mean, it wasn't like exactly the same time, but it was close enough. I just let myself sleep until I woke up. I didn't set an alarm in the morning. I went to bed early enough to make sure that like I would have time to get up for whatever I needed to do. And what I learned about myself is my body thrives with an extra half hour of sleep in my luteal phase of my menstrual cycle. So for all of these experiments, it's important to remember that you're really not gonna know what works best until you give it a try, barring like what you learn from your testing. But I really do recommend leaning into the experimentation and trying all the things, even if it's not something that you would initially think is going to be good for you. And that said, the other huge thing here is make sure you're giving things enough time, especially if you're going from like low carb to high carb. The initial switch might feel abrupt, it might not feel good, and that might just be your body adjusting, and it might take a couple weeks for your body to adjust to this new habit, new diet, new way of whatever it is that you're doing. So give things enough time to work and get through the adjustment period before you make any huge judgment calls on whether or not they're right for you and your body. Like when I first switched my diet to a more animal-based diet after being more plant-based, my digestion was not great. Like my digestion was like, what is going on? What are you doing to us right now? But after a couple weeks, it settled in and my digestion's actually better than it has been in a very long time. But if I hadn't given my body that time to adjust, I would have been like, oh my God, this is horrible. What is this doing? Like I'm gonna quit and go back to whatever I was doing before. And I think this is where a lot of people go wrong, honestly, with trying a lot of different diets, is they try it for a little bit and their body's like, yo, what's happening? And it like rebels with various symptoms, and they just give up and go back to what they were doing before, and they miss out on the potential benefit of actually trying the thing that they were trying. So once you've run a ton of experiments, you've learned a lot of things, maybe your body has changed a little bit, maybe your health has improved a little bit because you know you're doing a lot of things that are making you feel better. This is when you go full circle and you can retest. You can see how these changes that you've made are impacting your body, and you can see if you're on the right track, and if so, like where you're on the right track. So especially if you do the biome tests and like, let's say it said your gut health was bad and you've made all these changes, you can test again and see if your gut health did in fact improve. And it'll also show you if these changes that you made maybe negatively impacted other aspects of your health, and you can kind of go from there. So it really is a cycle of like testing, experimenting, retesting, experimenting, and refining to find something that feels the best for you so that you can get as much out of life as possible, because that's really what this is about, right? Like being healthy is great because like you feel good, but what it allows you to do with your life, that's the reason to pursue health. Like being able to travel in your 80s and 90s, being able to run around with your grandkids or great grandkids, or even just in the moment, like having the energy and the mental focus to accomplish your goals and dreams. Like these are the things that optimizing your health can help you achieve. And yes, this is a long process. Treat this more as a lifelong journey, a lifelong learning opportunity, and just let the process be enjoyable. There's actually one last point that I want to make that goes a little bit beyond bioindividuality, more about mental individuality, because I do think that's something that is really important to take into account. Your own background, your own relationship with food, relationship with health, relationship with exercise, your own mental health, and where you can make sacrifices and where maybe you can't make some sacrifices. Because optimizing your biology probably means not eating much sugar, not eating donuts, not eating a lot of processed food. But if the idea of doing that is going to make you end up binging on those foods, or feeling super restricted, or end up restricting more and more and more to the point of having an eating disorder, like that's not good for your biology either. So you do have to take your mindset around health into account when you're doing this, and it's okay to not optimize everything just for your biology, but also to make sure that you're staying mentally balanced as well. And like even for me, like I'm all about health. Like I have a very good relationship with my body, with food, with exercise, etc. etc. But I would feel restricted if I literally never ate a donut again. Like, that just sounds sad and miserable. And so I do take my own mindset into account, and I know that if I have permission to eat a donut whenever I want it, if I have permission to eat a pizza whenever I want it, then first of all, I don't really want it as much, and second of all, it allows me to stay in a much more balanced mindset. Maintaining a balanced mindset throughout all of this is key. That's all I'm saying. Stay balanced. I hope this video was super helpful for you guys. And I know not everyone cares as much as I do about their health, but like, I know some of you out there do, and so I just wanted to break this down for you guys. So if you have any questions about any of this, please leave them down in the comments below. If there's any like follow-up videos you want me to do, also let me know. If you liked the video, please give a big thumbs up. It really does support me and my channel. I really genuinely appreciate it. Make sure you check out Viome down linked in the description box below. Please share this video with your friends, your family, your gym buddies. If you want to see more content from me all about health and fitness, you can check it out over here. To see future videos, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell so you get notified when I post a video, and I will see you very soon. Bye.